Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. How are you all, dear students? I hope you all are well. So I'm here again with your second biology class today, inshallah, and we are going to continue from where we left yesterday. I hope I don't need to remind you about the rules again and again. After 5 minutes, I'll lock the meeting and then nobody can enter the meeting again. Please, if you don't have any notebooks with you, just quickly go and carry the notebooks with you so that if there is anything which I'll ask you to write, you can write it over there. Always carry a notebook with you in all the online classes. Okay, okay, students are still coming in the class. Let's wait for them. Beta, please inform your friends to be on time. I don't know why you people are joining so late. Okay, anyways, let's begin without wasting more time, because this Zoom meeting, it's scheduled for 40 minutes only, and then they kick us out of the Zoom meeting room, right? So we have to complete and wind up all our lessons before this time duration. Okay, so we were discussing about living things, and we were discussing about some characteristic features which all living things possess. We had already done nutrition. We did respiration as well, right? Respiration कर लिया था हमने. Yes, we did respiration. So nutrition, they're taking enough food to obtain energy. Energy is needed to do work. Respiration is that biochemical process in which the cells are obtaining energy. How are they obtaining energy? They are obtaining the energy by combining the oxygen, the atmospheric oxygen, with the glucose that is manufactured by the plants, and as a result they release carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of ATPs, adenosine triphosphate. This is an equation for respiration. Glucose, you all are well aware of the formula of glucose. Glucose and oxygen combine together in order to release carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Okay, the next characteristic features which is shared by living things is excretion. What is excretion? Now, excretion is actually the removal of waste products from the body. Excretion is the removal of waste products. Okay, now what waste products are removed from the body? What are the waste products? One of the example of the waste product is this gas carbon dioxide, which is produced as a product of respiration, and this gas is excreted from the body through the lungs. Now in our body, some metabolic reactions, they produce waste substances that are useless or that are harmful to the organism or the living body. Metabolic reactions. This is a new terminology for you. Are you aware of this terminology? What do you understand? What do you think are metabolic reactions? Okay, take a notebook and take your pencils and pens in your hand. You might need to write something. So metabolic reactions, like other numerous chemical reactions that are occurring in the cells of a living organisms, metabolic reactions are also occurring. Why are they known as metabolic reactions? Because they are occurring in the living organism. Metabolism say metabolic reactions. What is metabolism? Write down the definition for metabolism, please, so that you remember what is metabolism. Metabolism is the sum of all the biochemical reactions that take place within the cell. I repeat, metabolism is the sum of all the biochemical reactions that take place within the cell. I'm repeating it once again for the last time. If you miss out anything, you can always ask me in the chat box. Metabolism, you're writing the definition for metabolism so that you remember what is metabolism and what are metabolic reactions. Metabolism is the sum of all the biochemical reactions that are taking place within the cell or inside the cell. Okay, so some metabolic reactions, they produce waste substances. Those waste substances are either useless or they are harmful to the living organism. Now these substances have to be removed from the body. And the process by which the organisms are removing the metabolic waste from their body is called excretion. The substances that are removed from the body, they are called the excretory products. Process का नाम excretion. Those substances that are removed from the body are excretory products. One of the examples I just gave you, that carbon dioxide is an excretory product. And water and mineral salts and nitrogenous waste are all the other excretory products of living organisms. Now most animals, they have special organs for removing excretory products. In a living organism, if you talk about living organism, carbon dioxide is being removed through the lungs. So one of the example of the organ which is removing the excretory product, that is carbon dioxide, is lungs. Now plants, they are also living organisms. So plants also excrete waste products. Which waste products are the plants excreting? Carbon dioxide is produced in daytime or night time? It's produced in the night time. So for example, the carbon dioxide that is produced at the night, it may diffuse out of the leaves. So it's excreting out of the leaves. Carbon dioxide is the excretory product of plants as well. At night time, because at the daytime they are using that carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere for the process of photosynthesis. Living organisms, they are open systems. Open systems means that they are continuously receiving and disposing both energy and materials. So this process is basic to their continued existence. If it stops or breaks down, then the organism will die. Okay, so this is how excretion is taking place. The next characteristic of living organisms is growth and development. You all are growing and you all are developing. You were born as a baby. Then slowly and gradually you became an infant, then a toddler, and now mashallah you are young adults. Soon you are teenagers and soon you are going to be young adults. So growth is, what is growth? Growth is a permanent increase in the mass and volume of an organism. When your body mass is increasing, when your body volume is increasing, you say that you are growing. So you can write the definition, otherwise I think it's written in the slides. It's written, but you can write the definition. Growth is a permanent increase in the mass and volume of an organism when absorbed food is converted into living matter. I repeat, growth is a permanent increase in the mass and volume of an organism when absorbed food is converted into living matter. Yesterday, I guess Iman asked me this question कि मिस अभी आपने उसकी बात की थी वो क्या था. So what is that living matter? I hope you all remember the term I used for living matter. Protoplasm. That living matter is protoplasm. So growth is a permanent increase in the mass and volume of an organism when absorbed food is converted into living matter, that is protoplasm. Written? I hope you all have written the definition. Alright, so what can be an example of growth? You all are growing. You all started your life as a single cell. Remember zygote, we had studied in junior 3. So you all started your life as a single cell which was less than 1 millimeter in diameter, and now mashallah you are all grown up adults. You are large organisms made up of billions of different types of cells. So this is the process, this is the phenomena of growth. Development may make an organism more complex, or even it can change its form. Now, how is development changing the form of an organism? Like a seed is germinating into a seedling and then it grows into a mature plant. This is development. Like an egg of a butterfly, it hatches into a caterpillar, it then grows, then it changes into a pupa, and finally it emerges as an adult butterfly, the insect that is butterfly. So this is development. The body of an organism, it can change and become larger in size. Obviously, when the mass and the volume of the organism, the body is increasing, so it will become larger in size. It can, when anything is becoming larger, so it's also becoming more complex. So this is the kind of growth which is the characteristic feature of all living organisms, and this is how you all are growing. Okay, moving on to the next characteristic feature of living organism, we have reproduction. What is reproduction? All organisms are reproducing. They are multiplying in number. They are giving birth to their offsprings. So in reproduction, some of the characteristic features, they are passed from parents to their offspring. How is this happening? This is happening because the genetic information is passed on from the parent's cell to the daughter cells. I hope you all remember I was your biology teacher in junior 3 and I taught you this lesson very well. So in reproducing or reproduction, the genetic information is passed from parents to the offspring. For example, your mother and your father, they passed their genetic information to you. You have got genes from your mother, 50% of gene from your mother and 50% of genes from your father. Now, why is this reproduction necessary? क्या फायदा है reproduction का? All living organisms are mortal. One day they have to die because of disease. They can die of disease, they can either die of old age, they can die of accidents, or they can be eaten by other living organisms. Thus the reproduction process is very important in order for the living species to survive. Okay, so we all reproduce one way or the other. If we talk about humans and animals, the mammals, we give birth to the babies. There are other organisms like plants. They are also reproducing, developing through their seeds. Then there are other type of animals like fish. They lay eggs. Reptiles, you all have studied that. So there are different methods of reproduction, but all living organisms are reproducing by one way or the other. Then we have another characteristic feature of living organisms, that is movement. Movement. You all can move. You all can go from one place to another. When an organism is going from one place to another place, this movement is given a special word which is known as locomotion. The movement from one place to another place is known as locomotion. So, do you think that plants can also move? Do they move? Do you think plants move? Yes, plants do move, but plants do not locomote. There is a difference between movement and locomotion. When we talk about movement, we say that one organism, like if we talk about plants, they are growing up and then they are moving their face towards the sunlight. If you talk about some special type of plants like the sunflower moves towards the sunlight, right? So the plants, they are moving. The another plant, what's that name, touch me not, if you touch that plant, that is also, you can say it's moving, but that example is actually, it will be more appropriate in the other characteristic feature, that is the sensitivity. But plants are moving towards the source of light. Plants move, but plants do not look. Also, there are some other animals which cannot locomote. That is, they cannot move from one place to another. Like the coral reefs. Remember, we have done coral reefs when we were doing different type of habitats, rainforest of the sea. Coral reefs are referred to the rainforest of the sea. So, corals, they can also not locomote. They can just move. They do not go from one place to another. Other than the parts of the plants, like I talked about flowers, sunflower, which is moving towards the sun. Roots are also moving, they are also showing movement. Shoots are also moving, the leaves are also moving, but the plant itself, it cannot move from one place to another. So you get the difference between movement and locomotion. I hope it's clear. Movement is another thing, and locomoting is moving from one place to another. Okay, now if here in your slide you can see that it's mentioned locomotion is place to place movement. That is example is of bears, birds, humans, obviously. External parts, if we say that the external parts of plants, they move, then we called it as phototropism. Leaves are the external parts of the plant, shoots, stems, they are the external parts of the plants, and they are all growing towards the sunlight. And internal parts of the plants like cytoplasmic streaming. Okay, and sorry, internal parts of the plant, not the internal parts of the plants, the internal type of movement is cytoplasmic streaming. Now let's come to the other characteristic feature of living organism, which is adaptation or adaptability. Adaptability, what is adaptability? Adaptation or adaptability, what is that? Living organisms, they can adjust or they can adapt to the changes in the environment. So how they can adjust or they can adapt the changes, this refers to adaptability. Like the birds, they migrate. For instance, if there is a change of season or there is a shortage of food, that may cause certain birds to migrate to places where the conditions are more favorable. To obtain, they can go to obtain a sufficient, the birds can migrate to go and they can go and obtain a certain food sources and other purposes. And to obtain the source of sunlight, if we talk about plants, to obtain sufficient sunlight, a plant, they may grow upright and taller than other plants around it. Some plants, they grow taller than other plants. That is also one of the adaptations of living things. Now if we talk about humans, how do we adapt to different changes? How do we adapt? If it's cold, we have some we show some other adaptations. If it's hot, we show certain other adaptations. If we talk about fish, camels, and polar bears. Remember, can you all recall the adaptations? The adaptation of a cactus. It's how that living thing is adapting, or it's able to adjust itself to the changes in their surrounding. Cactus is a desert plant. It's adapting by it has different adaptations like storage stem. It has thorns, spines instead of leaves. Remember, polar bear has a thick fur coat. Camels have long eyelashes, long legs. Fish has a streamlined body. So these are different adaptations of different living things. That is how the living things adapt. Here, hibernation is also another adaptation. Frogs hibernate in winters. Then the other one, the last one, is sensitivity or a response or irritability. Response to stimulus or a reaction to stimulus. For example, let's suppose you are touching a very hot object. What will be your response? That hot object is going to be your stimulus. हाथ लगाया गर्म चीज को, चाय के गर्म कप को, और any pot or pen, क्या होगा फिर? मजे से उस पे हाथ रखे रहेंगे, बहुत मजा आ रहा है? No. Obviously, if you touch a hot object, you will just remove your hand immediately. फौरन से hand हटाएंगे वहाँ से. This is the response. This is how sensitive you are to the stimulus. That stimulus is the hot object. So you are very sensitive. You are showing sensitivity against that stimulus, which is the hot object. अभी जो मैंने touch me not plant की बात की थी, that again, that plant is showing sensitivity to the stimulus. When you touch that plant, its leaves closes inside, inwards हो जाते हैं उसके leaves. That is when we say that the plant, it's showing us a response, it's giving a response to the stimulus, and that stimulus is humans. When we are touching a hot object, the stimulus becomes that hot pen or that hot object. But when that touch me not plant, it's showing sensitivity or irritability, we are becoming the stimulus for that touch me not plant. Okay, so with this we are done with all the characteristic features of life, and we can name them as Mrs. Green. You can see on your slides, on your screens, I have given that terminology Mrs. Green, and you can see how each letter is defining each. Let's quickly, in 5 minutes, let's quickly recall. Movement. What is movement? It's an action by an organism or part of an organism causes a change in a position or the place. If it's movement from one place to another, we call it locomotion. Then we have respiration. What is respiration? It describes the chemical reactions in the cells that are breaking down the nutrient molecules and that are releasing the energy for metabolism. And most organisms, they need oxygen for respiration. Then we have sensitivity. Sensitivity is the ability to detect or sense the stimulus or internal or external environment and to make appropriate responses. It is also known as irritability or response to the stimulus. Then we have growth. It is the permanent increase in the size or the volume or the mass of an object, like you all are growing from a single-celled organism to young adults. Multicellular organisms, they increase the number of cells in their bodies and they become more complicated, and then they change their shape as well as they increase in size. This is growth. Then we have excretion. Excretion is the removal of the waste products from the body, and one of the examples of excreting waste product is carbon dioxide through the lungs. Then we have adaptability. It is how an organism adjusts to the environment. I think I missed reproduction. Okay, we have reproduction as well, production of new individuals multiplying in number, and last but not the least, which we had done in the beginning, was nutrition. It is the taking in of materials for energy, growth and development. If we talk about plants, plants are using the light energy, carbon dioxide and water and mineral ions. If we talk about animals, they are using the organic compounds and ions and different other sources which you have studied in the balanced diet: vitamins, minerals, water, carbohydrates, fats, proteins. So these are all the basic components for animal nutrition. That was all about the characteristic features of living organisms. We now have to move towards another subtopic of this unit, that is unit 1 Introduction to Biology, and that is classification. Classification we have done. I think in junior 1 we have touched classification in not in detail but very briefly. So you are aware of classification. I think you all know there is a science branch of science which deals with classifying living organism. Can you recall what is the name of that branch of science which deals with classifying organisms? The name starts with the letter T. No comments? Anyone? All right. It's taxonomy. Taxonomy is that branch of science which deals with the classification of living organisms, classification of different organisms. Okay, so what is classification? Classification is basically grouping of organisms together according to or on the basis of their similar characteristic features. There are many possible ways in which you can classify organisms. You could group all the aquatic organisms together, or you can put all black and white creatures into same group. But however, these do not make very meaningful groups, like all black and white together, all red organisms together. These do not make meaningful groups. So what do the biologists do? The biologists, they look for natural systems of classification. They use important features which are shared by as many organisms as possible. Like in some cases it's easy, but in the other cases it becomes difficult. If we talk about birds, all birds have wings, all birds have beaks, and all birds have feathers. So there's rarely any doubt that this creature would be a bird or it won't be a bird. But in other cases it's not that easy. So as a result, what do the biologists do? They keep on changing their ideas from time to time about how the living things should be grouped. New groupings are being suggested, and the old ones, they keep on abandoning those groupings. Alright, so what is the need of classifying organisms? There are millions of different species of organisms in this planet Earth. So when we classify organisms into different groups, it makes studies easier for us. That is the main purpose of classifying organisms. That is why scientists, they classify different things, so that studies can be made easier.